welcome to another episode of the Spohn Trained Personal Development Podcast. Last week I was at Date with Destiny, Tony Robbins event, and I met Scott Tennant, and I saw his dad speak, Dr. Jerry Tennant, at Unleash the Power Within event, and they both sent me to you. So this is Dr. Amy Marshall. She's going to talk to us today about some very unique ways to manage emotions. And Scott said that you had to write a book. He said he was telling you that he was pushing you in that direction. So I'm excited to hear what you have to say today and the contents in your book. So Amy, welcome to the show, and tell us how you got into what you're doing and what you're doing.
Sure. So I guess about 12 years ago, I had a health crisis of my own and fortunately landed in with Dr. Tennant. And so I've been a patient of his for about 12 years. And then when I finished kind of my higher schooling, my master's and my doctorate degree, I went back and I was like, look, you know, as a nurse practitioner, I know what works and I know what doesn't work. And so he's like, well, why don't you come work for me? So that's how that worked. And then we've always dealt with emotions, and we know that that's one of the 5 pillars that needs to be addressed as far as health goes, as an energy drain, as a voltage drain. So we've played around, we've massaged that idea over the last decade or so, and have landed here. And so this particular unique sound healing, if you will, is very efficient as far as healing the emotional component. I got into this work using some tuning forks from my chiropractor. On my body, he used it around my body, and I was like, whoa, that's amazing. And I could, I'm a singer, I play guitar, I play piano, and my brother actually was a monk, and I went to one of his chants one time, and I was just consumed by the chanting, the sound, and so I've always been very drawn to sound. So it's another language for me. It's easy to read, and I teach others how to read that sound. It's really not that hard. I teach people who think there's no way I can listen to that or read that noise, and I said, nope, we're going to do it, and they do, and it's fine. So yeah, you're going to ask questions?
Well, yeah. So in neuro-linguistic programming, we would say that you're an auditory person, right? Like your brain processes sound much more distinctly than most people's probably would. So that's the system that you're operating in, is a lot of auditory. Before we go into your story, tell us just like a overall 5,000-foot view of Dr. Tennant's work and theories.
Yeah. So Dr. Tennant's work is, he is an ophthalmic surgeon. And here in Dallas, he founded the Dallas Eye Institute a decade or so ago, actually like 3 decades ago. and so he actually brought in LASIK surgery. He brought in lens implantation. He was the first one to do that. So lots of patents, lots of innovative things around eyes. And then when he was doing LASIK surgery, he actually inhaled viruses into his brain and his spleen. He became very sick. And he was in bed for about 7 years. And his wife had to take care of him and his parents. So on his healing journey, he had a few minutes, a few hours per day to actually go back to his medical school brain and figure out how does a cell work and what makes it not work. And I think that massaging those principles again from a very downhill to uphill fashion, he was able to pull in concepts such as pH, such as voltage, and then finding out that going to an integrative medicine, talking about teeth and talking about emotions and talking about toxins, he began that walk just like he talks about, all those things that he did. And he helps others to walk through, and I do as well, working down those 5 pillars of getting your teeth fixed, getting your scars fixed, working your emotions, bringing down your toxic levels. And all of those things we've all had to do, myself included. Mm-hmm. So he began to work back and get well, and then he began to practice that kind of medicine as an ophthalmologist here in Dallas.
So it's, my understanding is it's, of course, health is on a cellular level, and we often forget that, but it's the vibrations of our cells, like the energy level of our cells that, is it in a healthy energy? And that's a lot of what your work is around, right? And how emotions affect that energetic vibration in the cells.
Right, exactly. It's a message, it's a signal.
Okay, so let's do a little bit about your background and how, what you were going to share with us before we kind of went off track.
Sure. So like I said, I had a really difficult healing moment, and went to Dr. Tennant, and he said, you got to get your scars fixed. You got to get your tooth fixed. You got to work on your emotions. And at that time, we knew a little bit about toxicities. We know a lot more now as far as heavy metals and things like that. We have more efficient ways than we did back then. So I did what he asked me to do, and I got my tooth fixed. I certainly got my scar fixed, and kind of pulled my way back. I got my thyroid fixed, hormones balanced, and began to then work on emotions. Emotions was the last one that I began to, because honestly, it's the hardest.
Mm-hmm.
And because they're just hard things. You know, these are things that we honor. These are our struggles. These are things that have made us who we are, and who we are able to come to the planet and be and do. And so I honor them, but at the same time, it's hard. Mm-hmm. So in my work, what I have found, however, is that we don't always have to drudge through it. The sound itself is an acknowledgement of those difficulties that me and my patients face. Yeah. So as it evolved and I began working in Dr. Tennant's work, I got exposed to tuning forks. Obviously, sound was already in my genes. I've just been a singer forever. I actually sang at Carnegie Hall last summer.
Wow.
Yeah, with my family and our choir. It was great. Of course, the lights went out in Manhattan, and that's a whole other story. But so it is part of who I am. What I also know about sound through my experience is that it really opens up intuition. And it really opens up consciousness. And it really opens up inspiration and clarity, and like I never would have expected. It's a whole nother level of sound healing, to be honest.
Wow.
We're thinking about the physical body. Yes, we want our vehicle to be strong and vibrant, and yet at the same time, we want a clear direction of who we are and where we're going with it. You know, and I feel like that's actually where the next level is. And so when when a person comes to me and wants to work with me, I got to get a sense of, okay, where is this person? Do we need to start at ground level? And that's okay. We start there. But then there are people who have already done a lot of energy work, and we kind of meet in the middle, and let's keep moving a little bit forward. So it becomes, yes, a tool to deal with the past, and yet it becomes a tool to direct the future. That's what I've come to learn.
That's great. So I teach a theory, I call it the antenna theory of emotions. And basically your body is an antenna of vibration, right? And there's a number of variables like our diet and the thoughts you think and the pictures that you make that affect the emotional signal you're sending out. And one of those is the auditory, which is not only, you know, what we hear from people, our internal voice, but also the vibrations of sound around us and how they can tune our antenna into different frequencies of emotions, which is, you know, more love, gratitude, joy, passion. And all of those things can be accessed just by shifting the vibrations in our body. So when I heard about what you were doing, I was like super stoked because I think you're going to have some insights for me that, you know, are just going to give me some fine tuning, if you will, on some of my theories. So I'm super excited to dive into it. Now, what's the best way for us to kind of get these principles across in this podcast setting?
So let's do this. So I will, like I said, I'll speak out loud what's going on in my brain so everybody can follow what I'm doing. I will take you as a person / patient at the moment, if you will, and we'll start at the beginning and we'll condense it, but we'll start at the beginning. We'll set the space. We'll check your polarities. We'll correct your polarities. We'll find a space that your body tells me that it wants to work on. And then when we find that stuck energy, that energy drain, if you will, we'll transmute it and you'll hear a difference in the sound. And basically bringing and raising the vibration of your physical body in doing so. So raising the voltage, raising the vibration is what ends up happening. And then we'll close you up.
And we can do this remotely, right? Because energy is everywhere.
Energy is everywhere.
Wow. I'm super excited. So I had a guest on one time and we went over my blood tests and my whole blood panel and how that affected my health. So why not just share everything with the world, right? So I'll let you kind of guide this process and you tell me what to do and we'll kind of talk through it as we go.
Sounds good. And if you have questions, stop me.
Okay.
We can dive a little bit deeper in spots if you'd like, because I know this is a little bit new to you as well with the transducer and the polarities and things like that. So I'll talk about that and off we go. So the first thing that I always do is, like I was mentioning before, is raising the vibration of the space. So I have a smart meter on the other side of this wall, which is not Great, right? I don't want that.
Mm-hmm.
So I use biogeometry. I'm a trained practitioner in biogeometry, which is an Egyptian form of basically centering vibration of the space. And in so doing, you basically transmute EMF and grid lines. So I actually will find those. I won't take the time to show you right now because that's a little bit hard, but the tools that I'm actually using, stones will help, but also biogeometry cubes, such as this.
Okay.
And it's actually the energy of shape. So we're adding energy of shape to energy of sound. And that may be a separate discussion that we have, actually. It's a whole nother ballgame.
So, I mean, the pyramids are shapes, right? If everything has energy, then shapes have energy.
Right.
And we won't go too far into that now, but is there a resource you would recommend to kind of get an overview of biogeometry?
Yeah, so biogeometry.ca,
Okay.
as in Canada. And Dr. Ibrahim Kareem, I've met him. We worked together in Canada last summer. So he has 2 books out. One is called Back to the Future for Mankind. And the other one is Biogeometry Signatures, which is what I use. Here's a picture. I don't know, it's probably backwards, right? But
maybe I'll have to get him on the podcast.
yeah, there's some shapes on there that actually help to harmonize organ systems.
Okay.
By shape alone. So yeah, so I actually use that quite a lot. So I'll try to pull it in. I'll show you how I use it. Okay.
Great. Awesome.
So I already know where my low spots are in this room.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to go and put my cube down. You're going to see me for a second. And I'm going to go ahead and raise that really quick. And then we're going to check your polarities next. So here we go. So we are actually tapping into the acupuncture meridian system, yours right now.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? So at the very top of your head is your gallbladder circuit. So I'm going to check the polarity of your gallbladder circuit. It's out. So what that means is the energy is not running really as well in the right direction. So remember, it comes up the back, down the front, as far as the acupuncture meridian system goes.
So for those listening on the podcast, she's got a pendulum, which checks the direction of the flow of energy and the intensity of it. And I use pendulums all the time for muscle testing. This is it's similar, but a little bit different use. So anyway, keep going.
Yep. So this is my favorite pendulum. It is also by Dr. Ibrahim Kareem.
Okay.
So it actually represents the physical all the way to the spiritual of a human. So it's the entire human archetype is represented on this particular pendulum. So, and I'll show you how I use it out in the field, out in the aura as well. It's
okay.
Pretty fun. So, but right now we're just checking clockwise versus counterclockwise. So counterclockwise, the polarities are out, and clockwise, the polarities are good. Okay. All right, so here we go. So gallbladder was out, and then we're going to check right around the third eye, which is sympathetic, which is good. It's going clockwise. And then parasympathetic is going counterclockwise. So that's important to know, because when we are in a rest, digest, and heal state, that's when our parasympathetic comes online, right? It's the opposite of the sympathetic.
Okay.
Fight or flight. So I always make a mental note when somebody is when their parasympathetic nervous system is not fully charged. That's what's going on, okay? So let's just continue on. So we're going to be at the lung, large intestine spot right here. So I'm going to ask for lung. So lung is good. So it's clockwise. Large intestine is good. Heart is good. And small intestine is out.
Okay.
So counterclockwise. And then spleen is good. And stomach is out.
So you have those stone spheres. Is that kind of representing my energy centers, and you're testing over that as a kind of a proxy?
Yep.
Okay. Very cool. So if you're just listening, you might want to check this episode out on YouTube, but we'll talk you through it as best we can. We're just doing pendulum testing for the different energy centers right now, and she's moving over stones as a proxy for my energy center. So, okay, keep going.
Yep. And they're also a donation of energy to you. Okay.
So I've been feeling pretty good and amped up lately, recovering a little bit from, the last event and travel I was at, but it's a little surprising to hear that all these energy centers are out or kind of misaligned. So, okay.
That's okay. And it's not uncommon. I mean, you're young and vibrant. When we see the people who have cancer, for example, or they have a lot of a heavy emotional burden, almost all of them are out.
Yeah.
like all of them. And they feel awful, like they can't get up and go at all. So this doesn't worry me at all. My red flags are not going off.
Okay.
I often have, like, for example, stomach is the worry circuit. You know, in traditional Chinese medicine, spring stomach is worry. Well, we're all pretty good worriers.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I think we're very adept at that. We need to get better. But so stomach is out for you. So in my mind, I know that you may not be able to absorb your nutrients as well as you could. Okay, so little things popping up here and there. Information for you. Okay, so let's go to kidney, bladder. So kidney is clockwise, good. Bladder, just thinking, is good. So bladder might be a little bit lower. So so it was going clockwise, but it wasn't going very fast. So that tells me that, yes, it's good. However, it might be a little bit lower than kidney.
Okay.
As far as qualitative.
As far as how much energy is flowing through there.
Right.
Okay.
And last one is liver. So at the perineum is liver, and liver is out.
Okay.
A couple of different ones. Okay. So what I'm going to do is turn on Dr. Tennant's biomodulator transducer combination that you probably saw.
I did.
Very good. And I'm just going to let that flow in for a moment. Go ahead.
Talking to Scott at the event, Scott Tennant, he runs the business, right? He just said it's going to change the world, and he was very optimistic about the technology and changing energy fields with this transducer and your work, and very excited about the opportunities that are ahead for you in the business as well.
Yeah, it's a beautiful work, and people are ready for higher work.
Mm-hmm.
They just are. And it's funny because the newer generations that are coming in that are younger than me, I see a huge shift in where they want to go with this work. And it's, yes, I want to deal with my past because I'm ready to move on.
Yes.
I'm ready to solidify my future and what I want to accomplish.
Yes.
As opposed to, please just help me heal my physical body. That's a whole different mindset.
Right. And so when we have, an emotional trauma or emotional patterns, like, very simply, our endocrine system releases hormones, which affects the vibration of the cells in that specific area. You do it over time and you start to get disease. And this changes that vibration back into, a healthy, vital vibration, so that emotional and that trauma is a memory and no longer energy trapped in the body, right?
Right. Yeah, and that's how Dr. Tennant and I like to describe it. We're just tuning an emotion back to a memory. So when you drive around that place where you had your car crash, you go, oh, that's the place where I had my car crash, and your heart racing.
Right.
It's a perfect example. So emotions have charge, and that charge is something that the body has to sustain. And so when we transmute it, and it's no longer there, it's no longer an energy drain. It's no longer an energy burden. And so it just lights up, basically powers up your chakras, powers up your energy centers. You're bringing in your energy back to you. You're calling in your light.
So this is almost like inner alchemy. Is that when people say the term inner alchemy, is that what they're referring to?
Sure.
Okay.
Works for me.
Okay. So you got the transducer going now. What is that doing in the space?
So what it's doing is it's scalar energy, which is a whole nother discussion. Scalar energy is what plants grow. It's Fibonacci sequence of numbers. It's coming from the sun. It's coming from the earth. It's how we are nourished. And so the scalar energy coming from the device is actually coming into the top of your head and going down your body, going down the central channel. And in so doing, it's scalar energy that actually corrects the polarities. Okay, not electromagnetic energy, scalar energy. There's a difference. So this is actually getting down to the cellular level, which is why it's so powerful.
And you just have the intention that, because you're obviously in a different room, you have the intention that energy is coming through me, and we both share that intention, and that's what allows it to work like that.
Yes.
Okay.
So cool. I'm in a unique situation in that most of the patients that fly in to us most of the patients fly in to see us. About 80% of the people who walk through our doors have flown in from somewhere. And so what my work has done is, like, I work all over the world now, and I never ever would have guessed that I'd be doing that as a nurse practitioner trained in Western medicine and knows tons about thyroid, right? So I have to kind of step back and scratch my head and go, wait a minute, I'm working on emotions all over the world with people. That's what I'm doing now, right? But every time I just don't doubt myself anymore, because I've had too many experiences to prove to me that what is really happening is true, because they'll validate it 100 times over.
Mm-hmm.
So I just don't doubt anymore. If they're ready to work, I'm ready to work. The space is set. It's a sacred place as far as I'm concerned, and we can just get down to work.
Beautiful.
Yeah. So let's check your polarities. Okay, so let's go back to gallbladder. Remember, that's the top of your head. Let's see where we're going. Okay, so it's got a nice swing to it. So the pendulum's going clockwise. It looks lovely. Let's check parasympathetic. Yep, it's good. Small intestine was good.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but the more you work with a pendulum, the more kind of in tune and the easier it is to read, and you almost develop a relationship, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, you really, this pendulum is programmed to only do two things for me: check polarities, and then I'll show you how I use it when I work in the field.
Okay.
Because it's unique in that the higher realms come in with work. And this is the one that does it. This is the one that helps me attune to the more than just the emotional level. We're talking about mental, we're talking about spiritual, those higher things that sometimes we get crossways with. Those are when this pendulum comes in.
And I think, it sounds, me a couple years ago would have sounded woo-woo, but really like our spirit and our psychology and our body all integrate and into our experience. And so if you leave out that spiritual component, you're not really healing somebody, right?
Right. Yeah. And remember, this is pre-body. This is pre-physical.
Yeah.
And so the pre-physical will always influence the physical. It's a trickle down.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And so when you have clashes in the spiritual realm between what you should be doing and what you're not, what you're not doing, you're going against the grain. And there becomes a charge there, a disconnect, if you will, mm-hmm. of where you really need to be. And so sometimes we work on those higher things. Sometimes we work on generational things, because those generations get passed on and passed on. This morning I actually worked on a lady in New York, and we worked on both of her grandmothers on her mother's side. And it was just a profound amount of worry back in Romania. And I was like, oh my gosh, we can't do anything until we fix this. So let's fix this first. Mm-hmm. So, we have to work on generational stuff too.
Yeah,
so it
absolutely.
Depends on what comes out, right? All right. So the other one that was out was stomach for you. So let's check into stomach. Stomach feels good. And then bladder, I'm going to check bladder because it was low. Now it's swinging nicely for you. Good job. And then liver, that's good. Okay. So we've got our space set up, and we've raised the vibration. These stones are actually adding quite a bit of energy here. We've corrected your polarities. We're going to keep the transducer on you while we work, because that just helps. It's just easy. It helps. So let's see.
So one question that pops up is, how often do you recommend people do this?
So what seems to work so far is if people can do 3 sessions remotely or in person, mm-hmm. I can get a lot of heavy work done. And then what it does is it teaches them to listen. It teaches them to be still and get to know themselves. It actually forces their hand because they can hear it. So when I put it in their lap after, and I go, hey, tune in to yourself and listen and tell me what comes back. I can ask that question of their body and get the right answer. Mm-hmm. But I really want them to be actively engaged in this process of their healing. It's more fun that way.
Okay.
So if they can get in 3, great. We do a bunch of heavy stuff. And then I've had people do twice a week for 3 months. I've had people do once a week for a year. I've had everything in between, really. And it just depends on a little bit maybe how fast you want to go and how heavy your stuff is. And I will tell you that the heaviest things that I continually bump into are childhood traumas. Mm-hmm. Those are truly, they take more time and energy, and it's a little bit difficult, but they're so important because it takes a lot of energy from the physical body to maintain that emotion out there. Okay.
And, when I'm working with a hypnotic client or, hypnosis or coaching client, the early childhood memories seem to, well, first of all, from 0 to 7, we're in theta brainwaves. So we're basically hypnotized. So anything that happens is just a stronger emotional response than later in life. And for me, I don't think I have anything too heavy, but you're going to tell me, I guess, as we get into this, right?
Yeah, and we'll pick one or two, depending on how much time we have.
Okay.
And we'll just work through them. It's not a big deal. So another overlaid concept that we need to throw out at this point in time before we get going on the next part is that if you think about a tree and you cut down a tree, you've got all the rings representing the life of the tree. So in our aura, in our magnetic field, in our biofield, which is a term that came out from the NIH in the early 90s, the biofield, which is a great term. So aura, if you will, people are more familiar with that one. At the very edge of our aura, about 4 to 5 feet on either side, is where we were born. And we can put our intention there, that that's going to be our birth. Before then is pre-birth, pre-generational stuff, or generations back is going to be out there. And as we work in, or as I work in on a patient, I'm working into present time. Okay, so I will have, I'll have an idea of where I'm at in their timeline to help guide. So things get lodged in the body. Sometimes I have to work on the body, and things get lodged out in the aura, in the timeline, like we were talking about childhood.
So are you doing kind of sensitizing your hands to feel the vibration in the energy field?
Yeah, you can do that.
So that's, I studied under Master Co a little bit, pranic healing, and, was able to find, you can find the outer aura and the inner aura and find different textures in the energy on somebody. And I'm kind of left it at that skill level. I didn't get into it like you did. So I'm excited to see how you work this.
Yeah, and sound is a little bit easier for people when they haven't, if they don't have the experience that you have, they're a little bit further out, they're coming towards the middle. So sound is so easy because you can hear it unless you have auditory issues. You can hear the sound and go, ooh, what is that? Okay, I know what that was. That was my heartbreak when I was 16, or that's when my parents got in a car crash. Things, heavy things, the sound will literally drop out. And what that means is that out here, that's your energy that you left behind during that traumatic time. And then the sound can't ring out from the tuning fork because it's bumping into all the energy. And so when we actually decouple that from that spot, the tuning fork rings out.
So when we say that somebody has a negative vibe, it's just energy in their aura that we just sense that's not consistent with how we want to feel, right?
Okay. So let's take the biofield in that aura that we all know about, and you go to a party and you're like, I'm going to stay away from that person. I don't know why, I'm just staying away. Because out in their aura, out in their field is things like fear, anger, aggression, abandonment, make your list. And sometimes it's anger. And you're like, that is rough. I'm not going over there. Because they've set down an energetic pattern either from their parents or from their childhood, and it's continued. And I see that a lot. It's a pattern that's been either passed down or started in their lifetime. So what happens is when we transmute or we release, whatever you want to call it, get your call your soul pieces back to yourself, whatever you call it. What happens is if we talk about resonance and we've got two frequencies and they're resonating together, and let's take anger, for example. If you come upon a time when you got really angry with your dad, and then you come upon it again, that second time, your body goes, oh yeah, I know that frequency, I've got it right here. I'm just gonna go ahead and amplify that because I know that sound. So what we're doing is taking out these underlying frequencies. And so when you show up to your family reunion, it just doesn't bother you anymore that your dad made you so angry as a kid. And you can show up and you can be at peace and you can be powerfully present is the true nature of this one.
So, in hypnosis, it's just an anchor or a trigger, right? And, you hear a song from your girlfriend 10 years ago and it still makes you feel the same way. Well, you can reset that, and you can do that with hypnosis or energetically shifting that out. But I believe that the underlying thing that hypnosis does is shift energy a lot of times,
it's acknowledging. We're acknowledging. And some people have never acknowledged how hard their life was because they've just continued to move on.
Right.
So I think acknowledgement is a big part of it. And even if their subconscious is acknowledging, it doesn't even have to be their conscious.
Absolutely. I mean, with hypnosis, that's what, that's where the work is in the subconscious. And so I just will talk directly to the subconscious. Like I'm totally ignoring the person. And sometimes, and the subconscious responds differently than they thought it would.
Yeah, exactly. So let's find a place to work.
All right, great.
All right, so I can do this a couple of ways. I do it through muscle testing. I can do it through a pendulum. And all I'm asking basically is, for your highest good today, where do I need to work? Let's just find a place to work on. So I can either use a pendulum, so I'll do that for your video part. That's a little bit easier.
Okay.
Grab my other one. Here it is. So it's just a yes or no question for the pendulum users out there.
So is it necessary to wrap the pendulum line around your fingers like that for like energetically, or is that just a preference?
Yeah. So you really just don't want a string hanging down.
Gotcha. Okay.
You don't want an antenna.
Okay.
So I always wrap it, but I always pinch it between the first and the second finger because that creates a circuit, a positive and negative circuit. And so you're completing the circuit
Gotcha.
when you use the pinch kind of method. So and plus, by the way, when I get out here in some really tough stuff and I'm using this really heavy pendulum, I actually have to hold it really tight because I'm terrified it's going to fly out and break a window. I'm just one of those kind of pendulum people. So I hold on really tight. Okay. So let's ask for your highest good today. Just show me where to work. So let's talk. Now we're going to kind of dive into chakras a little bit.
Okay.
So, because we're dealing more with energy centers of the astral plane, etheric plane. All right. So crown chakra today, third eye chakra.
So the pendulum's going left to right, which when I use it is as a no signal, right?
Exactly. And my up and down, like as if I was saying yes, is my yes. Yep. And I could just muscle test down. And find where to go. But for this, we'll just do it this way.
Yeah, I like the pendulum. Okay.
Yeah. Crown, okay, third eye, throat, heart.
Little action there, okay.
All right, so let's find out where on the heart. Okay, so we've got some on the left and some on the right.
Okay.
Okay, so it's going to be easier for me to face you. So I may switch back and forth from left to right sides of your heart. Okay, so this is great. Because oftentimes, yeah.
So we're going to share all my heartbreaks on my podcast. I'm so pumped for this.
So as we know, the heart is our connection to others. It's our connection to ourselves, our connection to our higher source of power, God, universe, whatever. And it's also our giving and receiving love. Okay. It is where loss shows up. It is where an absence of joy also shows up. So all the good things, the connectedness and the joy won't show up today. It'll be the things that are that one violin that's out of tune in the symphony, and you're like, that's what we're finding. Okay. So how old are you, sir?
33.
33. Oh, that's a very significant number. Imagine that. Okay. All right. So what I'm going to do is we'll start out at the very edge of your field. And I'm going to start prenatally. I always start prenatally because there's so much stuff going on oftentimes. And, remember these generations back, like your grandparents, even my parents, it's World War II.
Yeah.
There's significant world pain going on many times. So, and moms carrying babies, there you have it.
So I always, it sounds crazy to think that I would have something from a couple generations back, but the way I teach it is that when someone has an emotional event, that's how our subconscious and our cells get programmed, is with those emotions. And so a strong enough emotional response, those hormones and that information can program the DNA, which gets passed down generationally, because I just got DNA from my parents and they have their parents' emotional stuff. And so when you resolve it, you don't pass that to the next generation. And I think for me, that's a little more mainstream way of looking at it than that would make sense to someone that's not as spiritually into it as we are.
Yeah, and scientifically they're proving that.
Yeah,
there's already stuff coming out. Newsweek had an article not too long ago on genetic the children of the Holocaust victims and their struggles, and they're completely associating that with the traumas of the parents.
Yeah,
it is genetically embedded in the DNA. And another beautiful part of this work is that whatever work I do on myself, my children benefit.
Yeah.
That's huge, because what we're doing is changing the next generation. And that's one of my goals is get this, and yours too, I'm sure.
And everyone else in your environment, right? The better you are as a person and vibrationally, the more you can help everyone around you. And so, you're not just changing yourself. I love it. All right. So you have a tuning fork. What is the frequency of that fork?
So this one is 174.
Okay.
I could use my heart tuning fork. I do have one it's actually the solfeggio. So if you follow the solfeggios, the hertz of that, you can go up the chakras and it'll match up.
Gotcha.
Okay. 174 is like a ground. This one you're going to be able to hear better. So I'm going to use this one. But if I was at my office, I would use, and I had all of them here. I could use the heart one, but you're not going to hear it as well.
Okay.
I think it's going to transmit better using this one.
So is that a hockey puck?
It is a hockey puck.
Okay, cool.
It's a well-used hockey puck.
I see that.
Yeah, it's my favorite. And they actually tried to take it away from me from security, and I almost cried. I was like, look, let me talk to your superior because this is not going to happen. This is my favorite hockey puck.
That's so funny. You're going to use that as a blunt instrument to harm somebody, I'm sure.
Right.
Okay, so let's do it.
All right, let's do this. So you can imagine me, I'm about 4 feet from the center of your heart, okay? Keep in mind I'm on your mom's side, which is your left side.
Uh-huh.
Do you hear the sound?
Uh-huh.
Okay. So this is sadness from your mom.
Okay.
Okay. If you listen to, let me see if I can ring it. I'll ring it somewhere else, so I'm not in your field, but hold on. That's a better sound.
Okay.
Okay, it's really loud and clear. This down here, what's happening is there's a dual tone going on. So the harmonic underneath the tone is showing up. And oftentimes that's those lower vibrations, those lower frequencies. And those lower frequencies are things like shame and sadness and even depression and fear.
Okay.
Those all show up there. So basically we're working on your mom right now and you because we're working on you prenatally. Okay? So what I'm going to do is stay here a little bit longer. So in addition to the sound, and we haven't talked about this, we're not done yet. So in addition to the sound, I'm also bumping up against your energy here and your mom's energy. So I'm actually feeling resistance out here in the field.
So you're testing the sound with the fork and then you're tuning that vibration as well at the same time?
Yep.
Okay.
And then so when I know that I'm done, when number one, the sound comes up and it's beautiful and clear in a straight tone. And number two, when the resistance lets go and I can move in.
Gotcha.
Okay?
We might be here a while, folks.
I'll try my best. I'm trying.
No, you're good. I'm kidding.
Well, what's happening is there's some generational stuff here.
Yeah.
Because it's not clearing rather rapidly. So we're going to just start. Okay, now it's starting to change.
So the vibration from the fork will stay longer in a clear spot, right?
Yep, you got it. Yeah, all those. We've got lots of little nuances here to work with. Exactly. Okay. So what's happening is the dual tone is now becoming a straight tone. So what I want you to do is think about your heart chakra and the energy center right above your heart chakra.
Okay.
And I want you to see it as beautiful gold light. I want you to see it as a flowing gold light. So it's fluidity, it's movement. And I want you to call back your light to you. So you're basically powering up. Yes, good. Basically powering up your heart chakra. So calling in your energy. Good. Much better. So the resistance is lessened. Yes, good. Perfect. So what I'm going to do is take my pendulum from Dr. Kareem. I'm going to come check my work. I'm all about checking my work. I don't know why. It's just been ingrained in me. So I'm actually kind of tapping into the heart chakra. What I'm going to find out here, I don't know if you can see that. Can you see the pendulum going?
Uh-huh.
Okay. So what it's doing is it's found an imbalance in your energy, whether it's through the physical or the spiritual level, and it's actually correcting it. So the sound didn't clear 100%, which is why I pulled up this pendulum. So these are higher things that are being worked on, and it's your mom and you, because it's you right here, right? So, and like you said, 0 to 7. Oftentimes we're working on parents as well.
Mm-hmm.
So if we come back and listen, it's much louder. The resistance is gone. There we go. Done.
Wow. Yeah, that ring definitely stays there. And you're still running the biomodulator at the same time, right?
I am.
Okay.
So what I've done is I have several biomodulators and transducers in my room. And so I'll have one coming down on the head the whole time to maintain the polarities. Because I work on really sick people, by the way.
Uh-huh.
So they need a lot of help and a lot of energetic input. So that's why I use it. Anyway, and then out here, I'll often put a transducer where I'm working, because it's basically charging up those energy molecules right there.
Gotcha.
So they're almost more ready to let go. They're more charged, ready to let go. I don't know why, but I can get 3 times as much more work done as I used to.
Okay.
Using the transducer. So that was a really good example of a really heavy spot. So you may need to check in with your mom, tell her to drink a little bit of water today, extra water.
Okay.
You can hear it. I could really feel that sadness, honestly, in my heart. So you may want to ask her, hey, what was going on when you were carrying me? It could be World War II. I don't know what was going on. Or your dad's just lost a job, or, you know, the milieu of the family. Because it's not you, you know, it's her.
Yeah.
And how she was responding to the environment. So that's a good example of some overlaying of some generations. And we could go back further, because some of it may be generational too. So anyway, let's find another spot. Are you ready?
Okay, great. Yep, I'm ready.
And then we'll assess time and let me know if it's time to close up. Okay.
Oh, I think we're good. Take as much time as you need.
Okay, it's fun, isn't it? All right, so let's come in. So what I'm going to do is kind of come through, and just like your hand, you know, you can come bump up against that energy, and you can feel it. But for your benefit, I'm going to use sound, okay?
Okay.
Because the sound has more scalar energy. Remember, a tuning fork is scalar energy as well. So we're using that scalar energy from the tuning fork to actually do the work.
Gotcha.
I'm sure if we were really kung fu masters, we could do it with our hands, which I'm sure is coming, by the way. But for now, we'll stay with tuning forks. All right. So if we think about 0 to 5, let's find some heavy stuff. So around 4 and 5 years old is next.
Okay.
Okay. And did you hear the sound?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So it has a very muted kind of sound. Now, it didn't sound like sadness when I was listening to your mom. It has just sort of a straight tone. It's like a lone wolf, kind of howling in the woods, and you're like, but I'm actually feeling a little bit of resistance. Now, that's usually a transitional period to school for most people.
Okay.
So it's not uncommon. A lot of people have traumatic experiences going to school. And remember, it's disconnecting from parents.
Right.
It will show up here.
I'm trying to think when we moved, because we lived in Texas. We moved to Iowa City around that age.
Mm-hmm. Moves always show up.
Yeah. Well, I've moved a dozen times, so.
Well, the ones in the earlier years are probably going to be worse.
Okay.
As an energetic left behind, because it's more traumatic for kids than adults. You know, we have the ability to process things. We have things set in place to process. Whereas a child, you're just like, where's all my stuff? Okay, so this is heavy. So what happens sometimes is I'll listen in the first time and I'm like, okay, that's pretty heavy. That sounds like this or that. And then I listen in again. I'm like, wait a minute, there's more here.
So you can tell just the change in tone, and you know, like the emotion around the tone because you've been doing this long enough.
Well, yeah.
Or is it more of like an intuitive?
There's definitely an intuitive component.
Okay.
And I will tell you that I didn't start out that way. That's what I'm telling. That's what I was saying about the sound, raising consciousness. raising intuition, raising inspiration. That's what it's done for me. And so a lot of times I just go more by gut, because if I go just by the traditional Chinese medicine model, which I love that model, it's just dealing with sorrow and loss and dis. But sometimes there's fear. I hear fear. I can't help it. That's what I hear.
Yeah.
So it's not necessary. It's not super necessary to get it exactly right. What we're doing is just really acknowledging what went on and how many layers there were, if there were a lot of layers to it. Not the number of layers, but acknowledging that, okay, number one, there was a move. Number two, there was school. Number three, my dad lost his job. I mean, there was just a lot of trauma right there at that one time.
Yeah.
And through that, you go through those layers and they just start to peel off in sound. And then like that really clear one that we hit prenatally, it does the same thing. It just gets super clear.
Okay.
And it's beautiful. And remember, sound itself is healing.
Yeah.
So something interesting. There we go. See? It's nice. So if I try to move forward, I can. So I'm pretty happy with that. Oops, there's something right behind there. All right.
That just died right there, didn't it?
Yeah, it did. Yeah. So around 7.
Okay.
Yeah, 7 and 8. No, around 8. It's a little bit closer to 8.
So I think we moved again to Cleveland. I'm trying to think what else.
It's a fear. There's a little bit of, or heightened worry even.
So is it important to know like what the event was? Like does that help bring some context to it, or does it not matter?
So when I said most patients fly in, and sometimes these older people are very tired, and they will literally fall asleep and snore on my table, and I tell you, I can still get work done. So they're not conscious. I'm working purely with their subconscious at that time.
Sure.
And so it's nice for them to verbalize and go, oh yeah, I remember that. But it's not necessary.
Okay.
So and I have men who are like, I'm not telling you anything. And I'm like, that's fine. I don't care. I'm still going to get my work done. Whatever your body presents is fine. And that's what so I have all the spectrum of everybody telling me everything to people telling me absolutely nothing and completely asleep.
But I think a lot of times people think that things they think that things didn't affect them that actually did, right? And then there's like layers like, oh, I didn't know I was still carrying that, right? I mean, I'm sure that comes up a lot, and we're all carrying around a lot of things. That's why I'm not really shy about it, because I know everyone that's listening, they have their own stuff as well.
Absolutely. I'll tell you a funny story. So I had this gentleman, I guess it's been about 6 months or so, and I was on his heart. I was working on his heart circuit, which is great, by the way. It means that you've done self-work and you're ready to move up to the heart, which is actually a higher place to work, by the way. So that's a beautiful thing. So I was working on this gentleman's heart, and he was in his 70s or so. And I said, sir, something's really heavy at 52. And he's like, no. I was like, okay. So I kept working, and I was like, no, it's really heavy at 52. Like there's some huge shift here. And for the life of him, he could not remember. He just denied it. And then I get an email 2 weeks later from him, and he says, oh my gosh, I cannot believe I didn't remember that. He said, that was the last time I knew that was going to be the last time that I saw my mom alive. In the hospital, in a wheelchair, and he had to say goodbye and go back. So his brother was staying with his mom, and he had to leave, but he had that basically heartbreak, knowing that that was going to be the last time that he saw his mom. And I was like, oh my gosh, that is huge. And so he's like, can we have another session? So I've just learned to, even if you can't remember it, it just doesn't matter to me anymore. I hear it there, and off we go. And I have that happen quite a lot. People just don't remember, and then they'll call me and go, oh, I remember what that was. Yep, I remember.
Yeah.
So it's, like I said, it's really conscious mind. It's just not even, it just doesn't have to be part of it at that moment. But it is beautiful to go back and acknowledge how hard.
Isn't that funny though, how it works?
Yeah. So it's evolved from finding these stuck energies. So let's finish up 8. Let me just double check. Yeah, you can hear the split tone again.
Uh-huh.
That lower. Okay, this is on the other side of your heart. Okay, so this may have something to do more with your dad, and what was
Okay.
him and you. So just keep that in mind. We're not done yet. Yeah, hold on. So, by the way, something fun fact, is that the scalar energy that comes off the fork is more directional. So more of the energy is coming from the forks,
Okay.
from the sides. So directionally, it's better for me to actually face where I'm working to charge up that little area right there. So I call this my honorary stance when I can't move something. There it goes. Okay, good. All right. Okay, so what this has evolved, let me tell you a little bit more of the evolution of this.
Okay.
As we finish. By the way, I'm coming in and bringing all of those energies that we worked on, and I'm kind of coming through with a fine-tooth comb right over your heart chakra, okay? So, yeah, good. And I'm feeling some stuff as we go.
I hear it.
Yet. Yeah. So what it's evolved in, remember when Dr. Tennant would talk about teeth?
Uh-huh.
And how important teeth are?
Yes. So root canals, right? Block energy flow to the centers
and old crowns and teeth that have been pulled.
Okay.
All 3 need to be in people's awareness. So what I've done is I'll start listening to the teeth and actually go through the teeth and find ones that are like, oh my gosh, let's go, open your mouth, let me see that. You know, it's like, what is that? And they're like, oh, I forgot. So it's actually another way of diagnosing.
Wow.
You know, hey, you probably should get that tooth looked at. And I wrote down teeth for this lady, and she brought it to me. She's like, yep, those are the ones that the dentist said that needs to be fixed. So that's crazy, right?
Yeah, that is crazy.
It's so funny to have people listen to their own teeth as we're going through 32, you know, whether they've been pulled or not.
Yeah.
So that's how sound works as well. I had a cardiologist in one time, and I was like, hey, let's listen to the chambers of the heart, and we can listen to the sinoatrial node, right? The electricity of the heart. He's like, okay. So I'm listening to it, and I was like, man, I don't know what's going on with your left ventricle. And he's like, oh, I've had hypertension, and my left ventricle is bigger than my, you know. So it mimics what's going on in the physical body. And so it's like, hey, is there an emotional component to that? So usually there is.
Yeah, of course.
So I work on that. And like, for example, scars. So Dr. Tennant talks about scars. So I'm the one who actually does the neurotherapy, which is actually injecting the scars with propane so that they're no longer an energy block. So for example,
excuse me.
yes. So,
ooh, okay, sorry.
Okay, you're good with 2?
I'm good, I'm just 2.
All right. So for another big, huge part of my work is when I'll go in and inject the neural therapy and go underneath the skin for the scar, particularly like C-sections or car accidents, things that have a highly charged emotional component to it. I'll go in and correct the scar first with neural therapy and then come in and listen. And there's so much stuff in scars.
Yeah.
So many emotions in scars. So I'll actually take a lot of time with scars after I work on them.
And one of the ideas with a scar is that the body's fascia, transmits energy and signals and messages. And when you interrupt that with a scar, with a tattoo, you block that flow of energy, correct?
Absolutely, yep. It's a semiconductor, so it's actually running energy in one direction. And a scar, the deeper it is, the more of a roadblock of energy it is.
Yeah.
So, if you had a scope on your knee, for example, and it was just a poke hole, that's not going to be nearly as detrimental energy-wise as a C-section or open heart surgery, appendectomy or hernia. All of those are going deep, deep, deep into the fascia. And so those we always inject those, the deeper ones, and that's me. So anyway, so it's funny, it's not just out here in the field. I've just started using this as for real diagnostics, and say, hey, go get your cone beam scan for your teeth and check these teeth.
Yeah.
And we work on teeth a lot too, because teeth are crystal structures and they hold frequency. And remember, the teeth are going through all the different acupuncture meridians, hold emotions. So a lot of times the reason why we toy with the idea that the reason why a tooth maybe went bad in the first place was an emotional trauma. It's enough to maybe block a tooth hump. You get a cavity, and then you get a bigger cavity, and then you get a crown, and then you get a root canal. So we've even toyed with that idea. We can't prove it, obviously, but we see a lot of correlation to the teeth that are affected and what's going on in the body emotionally. Right. There's a huge correlation there. So it's like, hey, we're working on your spleen stomach teeth today. Well, that's what we're doing. And then we're going to go to your frontal lobe of your brain and work there so you can hear where concussions are in the lobes of the brain and the ages, and go work there. So it's about as limited as my imagination at this point in time. In addition, a lot of, like I had a woman who came in and she had herpes outbreak. And it's because her husband cheated on her, basically. And so a lot of charge there, right, to that brain. So we have a lot of homeopathics in the office. We have access to lots of different frequencies. So I took my herpes simplex virus 2 homeopathic remedy, went out into her field where that time frame occurred, and shined it in the light and actually used it in the field with one of the weighted tuning forks. So, here's one right here. Let me grab it. So here's a... I
think it's like a hammer.
Yeah, it is like a hammer. Yeah, so this one's not audible unless you put it up really close to the ear, and then you can hear it. So it's the lower vibrations, which are more associated with the lower chakra. So here's a vial of Lyme disease, and all of the 2,500, there's a lot of different homeopathics in here related to Lyme, so all of the different cofactors, co-infections. And so, for example, I would come in, and it likes to hide in the sacrum, by the way, and in the nervous system. So you can actually bump up against when it actually started in their life by just using, kind of activating this heavy weighted tuning fork with that Lyme, and I'll actually bump up against right where it started. And then we kind of work in. And so that emotional component of Lyme, which is usually feeling stuck in life, is kind of being worked on as well.
Wow, that's amazing. So lots going on here.
Yeah, lots of layers. So let's give you a heart signature. And you may want to give it to your mom too, because we started there. So what this is, and I'll let you take a picture of it if you want to on your screenshot.
And this is a shape?
Yep, it is. So in this book, I'm going to figure out which one your body wants.
Okay.
Particularly with that prenatal time was actually kind of in my mind because it was really very heavy there. So the energetic overlay that was going on for her is with you. So I think that's important.
Okay.
So I'm going to come over here thinking about that time frame using my favorite pendulum in the world, and I'll pick out one that your body's resonating with. Okay, there's one.
Yes.
There's a yes. So what I'll do is either use it on the body or even out in the field. This is the heart-brain connection, which doesn't surprise me. So thinking about your mom in that time period, what's going on is it's actually creating subtle energy shifts to create more balance and more harmony. So I just let the pendulum do its thing. I'm not asking it to do anything. It's literally taking the shape and sending it into your field.
Wow. So you're combining so many different modalities and disciplines, right? I mean, have you combined these a lot on your own, or is this from a training that you've taken or several trainings?
The sound is where I started.
Okay.
Just with playing tuning forks, but I also had Dr. Tennant. So I've always used the biomodulator and transducer. So that is already in my framework of reference. So it was super easy just to overlay that. But then I really found out the significance of the EMF and the grid lines, because I could tell when I was working, especially out in the field, like I would bump, I was like, why is this so hard? Why is it not hard here? But everything that comes in, it's hard right here. Well, it's a dang grid line right there, right? So if I transmute the grid line, it's like, oh, that's so much easier. So much easier. And it's just evolved into, my space is going to be perfect. It's going to be extremely uplifting and just an energy donor to begin with, in addition to the work that I do.
So do you have people underneath you that are doing the same stuff? Are you training people? Do you have, how do people get more information about how to learn this stuff or to come get treatment from you?
Right. So I do have my own website because it's kind of expanded, like we were talking about. It's dramymarshall.com. And I have been asked so many times, please, please teach this, please, please. And it was really from moms who wanted to work on their kids. And that's actually what started it. And I'm a mom and I have 4 kids. And I was like, yep, I know exactly what you're talking about. Yes, I will do that. So I teach classes at the Tennant Institute. I have level 1, 2, and 3. And 3 is if you want to get certified and actually open up and implement this into your practice. And then I've also got level 1 online right now, and expanding out into level 2 and 3. So this next year will be a very big year of growth. And I'll probably have some people under me that do this kind of work. But at the moment, it's just me. And that's not going to stay that way for a long time. Yeah, because it's a beautiful work. And I love that I give people a framework and I say, go listen to your own intuition. Go listen, because it will happen. Because I was given a very narrow framework to begin with, and I don't like that. I bucked that system pretty early on, and it's allowed me to just bring in beautiful things. So yes, we have training online, we have training in person, and certification if people want to do that. And I'm really excited. I'm really excited because I see changes in people. I see changes for the better all the time. And what I have learned is that it's subtle, and then it's another subtle, and then it's another subtle, and down the road it's just not so subtle anymore.
Yeah, it compounds, right?
It's just not. And people are like, they just become empowered. It's just, they are so present because those frequencies are just not out there screaming fear, 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 and then you come to make a decision and you've got fear. It's like, no, all that's no, we're right here. We're right here. And so it's this peaceful, powerful present moment. And it makes you a better parent, it makes you a better spouse, it makes you a better employee, it makes you just a better person to get your life's work done. That's the big stuff. So
true. Emotions and energy are behind it all, right?
From this standpoint, yes.
Yeah.
And I mean, infections and concussions and weakness areas in the body. I mean, they're all just energy drains, and emotions contribute to energy drain significantly. Yep. Yeah. So I don't want to leave you open.
Okay. We'll wrap that up, close that loop.
Yeah, we're going to be closing that loop.
Okay.
So I have a a pineal gland fork. And I love this one. It's a very high. It's in the 4,000s.
Okay.
So what I'm going to do is actually give you a kind of an infinity sign here really quick. So we're sending in this low vibration of the Schumann resonance of the earth. So the earth, of course, is a beautiful donor of energy and healing to us. That's why we should get outside, right? So this is actually a harmonic of the Schumann resonance. And then I'm going to come back with my pituitary fork pineal. I don't know why I keep saying that. It's my little yellow tuning fork.
Okay.
Okay. So it's resonating right here. As far as the body goes, it resonates most right here.
Sure.
And it's kind of decalcifying the pineal gland so that we can get that intuition back. We can get the clarity and make decisions. So resonating, I'll always end with this one.
So is it a good idea to get one of those and every once in a while just hold it on and clear that space?
Yes.
Okay.
If you want, I'll email you the gentleman that makes this one.
That'd be amazing.
Yeah, I can send you some links.
Do that. We'll put it all in the show notes so everyone can get access to you and to the technology that you're using.
Okay, I'll send you an email.
Okay.
Is that okay?
Yeah, perfect. That'd be great.
Okay. Because there are several different things, as you've seen, that I bring in because I found all of them to be a leap forward, and that's what I'm interested in.
Yeah. Is
moving forward, even in this. So, like a year from now, it may be totally different. But for right now, I can tell you this gets a lot of stuff. This gets a lot of work done for people, and I've experienced it in my own life. I didn't realize it actually, but the first time someone used tuning forks on me, the next week I made the hardest decision as a mom for my son. And it took me 2 years. I was terrified to make a decision for my son. And it was grueling. I cried. I just did everything. I just was never had the courage to make the decision that I knew that needed to be made. And I had somebody work on me with tuning forks. And it wasn't like this. It was pretty simple, which is fine. But the next week, I finally came to the table armed and ready to make the most powerful decision in his life, the most difficult decision I've ever had to make. And I made it and I did it, and it was the right decision. And it did not dawn on me till a year after that. And I was like, oh my gosh, I cannot believe that I cannot believe the synchronicity of that. And from then on, I'm just 100% all in, 100% all in. So I know from personal experience, I'm a totally different person than I was 3 years ago when I started this journey. As you can tell, I come to the table very prepared, very powerful, very knowledgeable, and ready to work and ready to help others. And I was not that 3 years ago, not even close. So anyway, let's close up.
All right, perfect.
With your pituitary, so you can with your pineal. It's right there. They're pretty close together, right?
Yeah.
Technically, but your third eye, kind of send in some love and attention there, because it's going to resonate there. Okay.
Okay.
All right. There we go. That's better. It lasts longer. Good. So I'm just going to do a figure 8 over you. There we go. And a reconnection. It's kind of connecting to the universe, to God, to people that you love. Mm-hmm. It's like an energetic highway. It's reconnected. I see these emotions as us turning inward. And maybe in your work you've seen this as well. When you get rid of junk, you're just so much more outward and ready to connect and bring it to the table. So yeah, so that's kind of how it works.
Beautiful. I mean, I could, there's always the power of suggestion, right? If I say you're going to feel this in your head, you're going to feel it. But really, like, you can feel that vibration. And I've worked with, Tibetan bowls and some of that stuff. And I use some of that in the meditations I create. And you can feel the vibration in different parts of your body, because you're just getting into resonance, right? And that's one of my favorite words, is building rapport with someone is really just getting into resonance with them. And so shifting the energy centers is really about getting into resonance with them. And so I love your work, and it really applies into all the stuff that I teach, and some new distinctions on sound and how the emotions show up in the energy field. And I learned a lot, and that's really the reason I do this podcast, is selfishly so I can learn a lot, and my listeners get the benefit as well. So thank you so much for coming on. Is there anything else you'd like to share?
No, I'm just excited. Whoever is called to this work, and there are people that are called to this work specifically with the sound. That is their gift. That is their gift to the world. So if there's people out there who are interested in that, then just go ahead and contact me and I'll help you out.
Okay, well, we'll definitely put all the links everywhere. I have about 15 courses that I'm in the middle of right now, and so I'll add this to the list of things to do at some point in the future, because I just can't get enough of this stuff. So it's been a pleasure having you on, and I look forward to meeting you in person one of these days.
Indeed, it's a delight. Thank you.
Thanks.